Do you own an old copy of the Tome of Beasts by Kobold Press, or any old monster book for that matter, and have your players encountered some of the monsters in these books often enough that they're happy enough to beat the living crap out of them with their metagaming abilities? Well, fear no more, because Kobold Press came with a cheap, simple, yet very effective PDF to teach you how to change up your monsters and surprise your players. Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, my name is Mr. Trask and this is Tome Unleashed, a PDF you can pick up from the Kobold Press website for a few dollars. I think it's $3.99 or $4.99 or maybe $5.99, I don't know, and it's called Tome Unleashed, and it is basically a PDF that teaches you kinda how to use old monsters that your players been encountering more across the years that you've been playing 5th edition with them or whatever. They might have encountered some of these creatures, some creatures like orcs and I don't know, goblins and whatever, multiple times, and they're happy to metagame the shit out of that and completely beat the living crap out of them. So you need new options for that, or you need to surprise your players in fun ways in order to keep them on the edge of their seat or on their toes. And Kobold Press does that with Tome Unleashed, which is basically they take the Tome of Beasts, the original old school Tome of Beasts, and they take a few monsters from that as an example. But these tips and tricks that are in here can be used on any creature, almost any creature you like, from the 5th edition monster manual, maybe some other monster books by Norn Games that you have, Dreaded the Cursed, whatever, Revenge of the Hoard. You can use all of this stuff that is in here for those monsters in order to make them more interesting, which is pretty damn cool. It is a small PDF, it's only 18 pages thick, and of those 18 pages, a few pages are like the back, and the back 3 pages are like a commercial for Tales of the Valiant, and there's the back sleeve and all of that stuff. And they take a few monsters, but first they go into what you can do. That's like one page, what you can do in order to make stuff cool for your players. Now, it's not only changing up the monsters that makes it interesting, it's also coming up with other stuff that came to a little bit of a surprise to me, which is really cool idea. So first of all, let's talk about switch damage types, which is always like a good thing to do if you have a player that just reached the point where they have resistance to bludgeoning damage, for example, but you have a creature prepared that does piercing damage. Just give them a slightly different ability, we'll go into that later, that does bludgeoning damage, so you can make that player that is that can hold some bludgeoning damage, that is resistant to bludgeoning damage. You can make them feel a bit better about themselves, about their characters, which is always a good thing to do as a game master. Expand the traits, they will talk about that later. Create alternate versions. They also give us alternate versions in this PDF of monsters that are in the Tome of Beasts 1. They give a few alternate versions of those monsters, just as an example. And then there's an interesting thing, two interesting things. Create new feats, which is really interesting. They kind of say, in rare cases, a monster's abilities inspires a new feat. I think that is really cool, and they do that later in this PDF. For example, I see something here in the L-site creature stat block. It has a skill called Wood Friend, right? When in a forest, a spear scorched L-site leaves no tracks and automatically discerns true north. That could be a cool feat. Maybe you can add like a line to that, add +1 to your dex modifier or con modifier or something to make it like a feat. But it's cool that I never thought about it that way, that you could have an ability from a creature actually makes sense towards creating a new feat, especially if your creatures, say your creatures are defeating these on a regular basis and maybe even studying them, they might learn how the L-site does that thing. Meaning that it would make sense for a character to pick up on those skills and kind of take them for their own. I really, really love that. And then there's adventure hooks, and they give us a few creatures: the Elsight, the Chronelmental, sorry, the Hoard Golem, and then there is the Paper Drake. There's also the Oasis. The Oasis, if you don't know what that is, it's basically an ooze that is an oasis. You think you're safe in a tent, and you think there are palm trees, and you think there is water in the middle of the desert, but it's not. All of it is just a ooze that's trying to eat you, devour you, all of that stuff. And there is a Paper Drake, a creature that I really love. And from the Paper Drake, they also say in the beginning of the book, they also say, like, you can create new spells and magic items from creatures. And one thing I want to jump to really quickly, for example, a really cool spell right here is Paper Form. So the Paper Drake, of course, is a Paper Drake, and it has some cool abilities, Refold, where it can crawl but through spaces that can fit paper and all of that stuff. So they come up with a third level transmutation spell for sorcerers and wizards, 1 action touch, visual, somatic, and material, concentration up to 1 hour until the spell ends. One willing creature you touch becomes a sheet of paper. The target's walking speed becomes 5 feet. The target has advantage on dexterity checks, stealth checks, and it can pass through spaces large enough to fit a sheet of paper. Additionally, the target gains immunity to bludgeoning damage, but suffers vulnerability to slashing damage. And I would add fire damage to that, because you don't want to set a piece of paper on fire. The target can use its action to shape itself into another form or return to the flat form. I think that is really cool, because it can alter itself into an other form, so a flat form, but also a form that kind of represents a creature, because you need to be able to move, whatever. This restores the target's walking speed and can even grant it a flying speed equal to its walking speed. So let's say you change into like a little, like this thing here, right here, or like a little Paper Drake thingy, right? Because you are a sheet of paper. You can do that, and you gain a flying speed, if that makes sense. I think is a really cool spell to have. It's a bit ridiculous, but in a cool way. It also removes advantage on dexterity checks and the ability to pass through narrow spaces. But as an action, you can go back to flat, and you can go slide under a door or slide into somebody's DMs or whatever, and then boom, you're a Drake, and then yeah, you know what I mean. So I think that's very cool. Let's really quickly look. This is not like a review. This is more like me just pointing out that this exists. It's not big. It is just a few pages. It's just a few tips and tricks. First of all, they go into an alternate traits and actions for the basic Elsight that is in this book. So some stuff that you can add to the basic Elsight is a hoof attack. The basic Elsight, the standard Elsight, has a spear attack. A spear attack, of course, does piercing damage, but other than that, it is almost exactly the same, with the difference that a spear can be thrown, and this cannot be thrown because it is attached to your body. A hoof is attached to your body. So +3 to hit, +5 feet, 1 target hit, 1d4 +1 bludgeoning damage. So you change the damage type. That's what they say right here. Switch the damage type. Now it does bludgeoning damage. And also, because now you don't have a ranged attack for your spear, you can add multi-attack. The Elsight makes 1 hoof attack and 1 spear attack. Oh, suddenly it still has a spear. Oh, so this is for, okay, sorry, misinterpreted that. So it's still for the same creature with the spear and the bow and arrow, but it can now also add a hoof attack. Speak with deer. The Elsight can communicate with deer as if they share a language. That's really cool. And then they say, in exchange for these added traits and actions, the Elsight is limited in the following ways. The Elsight's walking speed is reduced to 30 feet, so from 40 to 30. Its dexterity is reduced, which also reduces its armor class. It reduces its stealth. So you give it a few new abilities, but you also take away from a few things to kind of balance that stuff out. And I really think that's really cool. So there's just these tips and tricks on how you can do that for yourself, for your own creatures. Then they give us 2 new Elsights, who has one has an ability called Recall Spear. The Spear Scourge Elsight returns a spear that it has used to make a ranged attack since the beginning of its turn to its hand. So Of course, if you then kill that creature, you can go two ways with as a game master. You can either have the recall spear thing be a magical thing that they do themselves, or have it be a magical weapon, like this one, Returning Spear. It is a weapon, a rare weapon. You gain a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls made with this magic spear. In addition, you can use your bonus action to return the spear to a free hand. If you do not have a free hand, the spear lands on the ground within 5 feet of you. I really like the way they come up with magic items with feats and spells from the abilities and from the lore and from the team of creatures. And I saw this on Twitter, this little PDF on Twitter. I immediately downloaded it. Well, I asked Kobold Press to send it to me because they loved me and I love them, or something like that. Thank you, Kobold Press, for sending it to me. And I love it. I think there's some really, really good wisdom in here. So, Mike Wellham, congratulations on writing this. If you're interested in picking this up for yourself, link is in the description below. And until next video, bye-bye.